So passive voice is a useful tool in your writing. It might be one that's not that familiar, but it's very helpful a lot of the time, and we'll get into why in a minute. You're probably familiar with active voice to start off. Active voice is kind of the basic form of writing that we're used to. In active voice, the subject is the actor or the doer of the verb or the beer of the verb. They're the thing that is revolving around. In passive voice, we're just going to switch that. So if we take an example first from your paper, the cat scratched my new sofa. The cat is the subject, scratched is the verb. The cat is doing the scratching. That's active voice. The subject is the actor. Passive voice is the other one. My new sofa was scratched by my cat. So the new sofa is not doing the scratching, obviously. The cat is doing the scratching. But the subject of the sentence is the thing receiving the scratching. And so that's passive voice, is basically switching the subject and the verb in the sentence. Another example, Bob broke my mother's beautiful old flower pot. Bob is the actor, he's doing the breaking. My mother's beautiful old flower pot is the object, it's the receiver of the verb, the receiver of the breaking. To change to passive voice, you just flip that around. My mother's beautiful old flower pot was broken by Bob. So we've got my mother's beautiful old flower pot, nothing has changed, it's still receiving the breaking, but now it's the subject of our sentence. The verb still is breaking. I mean, it's a different form, but the same idea. And Bob, the actor, the doer of the breaking, is now the object of the sentence. So for example, what we're doing is we're changing the actor from the subject to the object. We're changing the form of the verb, but not the verb itself necessarily. We're changing the object or the receiver of the action from the object to the subject. Now, why would we ever want to do this, you might ask? And also, isn't Bob always the subject no matter where he is in the sentence? Well, first of all, no. Bob is not always the subject. The subject is determined by its place in the sentence, not the fact that that's the doer of the action. And so that's a big key for passive voice, is we're making it so that the subject, well, not the subject, the doer, we're making it so the doer is not as important anymore. We're trying to kind of downplay their importance. There's a lot of reasons you might want to use this, but first let's go ahead and practice with a couple of examples here. So the first one, some unknown person stole my car on Saturday night. So in this case, I don't know the actor. It's an unknown person. It's not important. I want to focus on the person who did this. I want to focus on the action that happened and what I know that it happened to, which is my car. So this is one reason I might use passive voice. I'm going to change it so that the focus is on the action, because if the actor is the object, I can delete them. A sentence doesn't need an object. So that's what we're trying to do here. So some unknown person stole my car on Saturday night. My car was stolen on Saturday night. That would be our sentence. I can just delete some unknown person. I could say my car was stolen on Saturday night by some unknown person, but I don't need to say it because it's the object of the sentence. So if the actor is not important, or if the actor is unknown, passive voice is very useful. Another reason you might want to use it is to emphasize the purpose or the goal of something. So if you want to focus less on who was doing it, or you want to focus more on why it was done, you could do a passive voice for that. For example, I used soap to clean the dirt off the floor. Okay, cool. I don't really care that I did it. It's not important that I did it. I want this sentence to be about what I used and why I used it. So why did I use soap? Why didn't I use something else? So I'm going to say soap was used to clean the dirt off the floor. And so we're emphasizing the action and the reason that the action was done. And another reason that we might want to use this is to emphasize the result of something, like what happened. We don't care about who did it, we just care about what happened. So for example, at the National Assembly, the congressmen and congresswomen passed the law. Okay, whatever. Who cares about the government workers that did it? We care about the law. The law was really important to us for some reason. So we want to emphasize the law. It was passed. So we're going to say the law was passed at the National Assembly. We can just delete the actors of that. And so these are really important, not really important, these are really useful times to use passive voice because they'll really help to focus on what happened. And also what it happened to. So in order to change to passive voice, it takes a lot of steps, but it's not that hard. First thing, obviously, flip the position of the subject and the object. So the doer goes to the end, the doee, or the thing receiving the doing, goes to the beginning. Next, you want to change the verb to passive tense. Passive tense is like the past tense of the verb. Sorry, past participle is technically what we call it. But if you haven't seen that lesson yet, let's just call it the past tense form of the verb. Also before that, you're going to want to add the to be verb. To be is like is, are, were, was, something like that. You want to add that before the past participle form of the verb. The past participle of the verb is always going to be that, just past participle, no matter what tense you're in. But the to be verb must match the tense of the sentence. Some examples will follow of that. Then if you want, the new object is the actor, the doer of the sentence. You can just remove them, as you can with any English sentence, because objects are not required. If you're keeping the new object, however, you might want to add by before that because it's required, not because it's clear, but because it's required. So for example, going back, the law was passed at the National Assembly by the congressmen and congresswomen. We would need to add that by. But if we don't add them, then we don't need to worry about it. So let's take some examples here. I've got 4 tenses. Simple present tense is what we'll start with. The active voice form is people cook food in the kitchen. So passive voice, we've got food and people, by people, are flipped. I've deleted by people because it's not important. So for that passive voice verb, cook, past participle of cook is cooked. And then to be verb, is. The sentence is simple present tense. We're just going to say is. Food is cooked in the kitchen. The second one, present continuous tense. That's ing. My parents are making dinner in the kitchen. So make is our verb. Made is the past participle. Sorry for the slight irregular. And then the to be verb, present continuous of to be is being. So we've got is being made in the kitchen, and then by my parents if we wanted that, but we could delete that. Third one, simple past. One of my parents spilled food all over the floor. Food spilled is our past participle of spill, so we can keep that the same. Food and then past was. Food was spilled all over the floor by one of my parents. Or just food was spilled all over the floor. That's fine. And then future tense, as much as English has a future tense, my family will eat pizza for dinner instead. So eat, past participle, eaten, sorry again for the irregular, and then our, quote-unquote future tense verb will be will be. So pizza will be eaten by my family for dinner instead. So you can also say pizza will be eaten for dinner instead. That's fine. You don't need by my family. hopefully that wasn't too hard. It's a pretty quick grammar point, but it's something that's important to get for the test. Since you're talking about machines for our test, you probably will need to use passive voice a lot, because a lot of the time machines are inanimate objects and can't do actions. So when you find yourself using passive voice in the test, make sure you're being conscious of how to use it.